And good evening, folks. Today on Save versus Bourbon, we're going to be talking about fear. As always,
And more fear.
yes, and more fear, and also fear, but it's all caps. So, as always, I am Brandon. I'm a major role player. I like to DM. I make delightful stories with people. I've been doing that for 15 years now. And as always, my co-host is Steve.
Hello! I am his vocal doppelganger.
Yes, indeed. If you can't tell which one of us is which, don't worry about it. No one else can either.
This is a true statement. Welcome to 2019, everybody, where we will continue to drink throughout the year and have fun with pretty much.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Happy 2019, everybody. So, as always, with the format on this program, anyone who is in the Twitch channel right now, you are free to chat away and talk to us, and we will engage with you. We will read comments. We will respond to comments. You can feel free to chime in however you like, and as always, most of the podcast is just going to be me and Steve here, steadily drinking while we talk about the subject at hand.
Which is a lovely subject because this was meant to be initially meant to be a topic of discussion to be had on Christmas Eve. So we could have used the terrible, terrible pun of the Nightmare podcast before Christmas.
Right, but instead of that, we're doing it. This is the nightmare that opens the nightmare year that 2019 is going to be. Cychan74 asks, what temp do I need to set my oven at to bake a cat? It depends on how tough you want the cat to end up. I would suggest you set it no more than 250, maybe 300, and that you slow cook it for at least 6 to 8 hours.
Slow and low is the way to go.
Slow and low is the way to go. That is how you bake a cat, ladies and gentlemen. I haven't even started drinking yet, and we're talking about that. Cool.
Yeah, you haven't started drinking. I started drinking about, 40 minutes ago. I got the good shit tonight.
Oh, you got that 100 proof.
111 proof cast strength Maker's Mark.
I probably should have gotten the scotch out for this, but instead I'm just drinking on a rum and coke. That's what's happening here.
Fair enough. Well, for those not familiar with me, as Brandon gave his resume, I've been doing similar for a similar amount of time. Less on the actual orchestrating of stories and more on the participating in world building and just enjoying making stories. Yeah, he does it better than I do.
Oh, I wouldn't necessarily say that because I don't know how you do. So let's go ahead and get to the subject. So, like we said, we're talking about fear today. We're talking about terror, horror. We're talking about games and things that made us afraid, and we're going to talk about how you leverage fear with your parties in your own campaigns, and how you can benefit from good old-fashioned pants-shitting terror.
That's the good kind of terror, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. How would you like to begin this, Steve?
Oh, well, I mean, if we're going to start a topic about fear, I figure we should start with something with fear in the title.
Okay, all right. Now, I never played Fear. That's Fear in all caps for those who don't video game very much. I remember...
I was talking about Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but yeah, I guess we can go with Fear the video game.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas isn't scary, though. I mean, apart from like in an existential kind of way.
Right. No, I was going to talk about Fear the video game.
I mean, we can talk about Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I'm easy. Let's do it.
Uh, Sorry, still getting over a cold. But let's just start with fear, and then we can go into fear and loathing in Las Vegas, and then dive into the existential horror of the universe.
And or the Big Lebowski.
Indeed, because everything has to have a Big Lebowski reference, regardless.
I have a Big Lebowski jar in my house.
I know you have a Big Lebowski jar in your house.
Anyway, do continue.
So for those unfamiliar with fear, fear is start out as the game Fear First Encounter Assault Recon, essentially about a top secret government black ops team comprised of the elite who go after paranormal activity and shoot it with guns. Because that works.
Kind of like a mobile task force, yeah?
Kind of like a mobile task force. In fact, you could say, you probably imagine they are part of the SCP world, and they probably...
Or possibly a Suicide Squad.
Or a Suicide Squad. And by and large, the death toll of these squad mates you come across is astronomical. However, the premise of the game is you're going in to stop this cannibalistic, psychic commander archetype soldier who has a battalion of psychically controlled super soldiers and mechs and guns.
Whoa. The villain of Fear is M. Bison?
Yes, essentially.
Huh, I did not know that.
Aside from the fact that, he doesn't wear, all the red in the world, and, Bison at least pretends to not act like he's batshit insane all of it.
Now, that depends on which Bison we're talking about.
This is true. Paxton Fettel, on the other hand, his entire premise in the world is he's just a psychic super soldier, capable of going elfin laid on motherfuckers with the merest thought.
Sure. So, at some point in this, somebody gets their heart torn out and shown to them, I'm sure.
Several times, actually. However, as you start into the game, you start noticing that there's weird shit going on. And not just, a cannibalistic super soldier and, psychically controlled, very advanced AI for the time. This game came out in the I want to say it came out mid-life cycle of 360 and PS3, and the AI was phenomenal. But you start noticing...
Wait. Because I don't know anything about this game, you just said the AI was phenomenal, and I would like you to explain that, because I don't know what that means.
Well, from what I remember, it's been years and years since I've played the original Fear, and as you went on, the AI kind of suffered a bit going into Fear 3, and it was still pretty good in Fear 2. The AI wasn't just the typical, we're going to rush you in a corridor filled with cover. They're actually going to take cover. They're going to try to flank you. They're going to use grenades. And granted, as Psychon says, there's a large series of cheats. The AI still made you feel as though you were actually fighting something other than just mindless guys with guns.
You know what? I have heard someone talk about this. The AI was mostly scripted, right? So, like, when you went to a certain spot, the AI would do certain things. But it was all scripted in such a way that it made the AI feel... Yeah, that's right. It would spawn in Path to Truth with map triggers, yeah. Somebody told me about this.
And it was absolutely a blast to play through. And at this time, I've gotten better in years, but at this time, I didn't really do horror very much. But I played through the entirety of Fear and Fear 2, and I absolutely loved it. I started playing into Fear 3, and I didn't get a chance to actually finish the game because of various reasons, but I did cheat and read through and see how everything kind of ends. But the AI was terrifying on harder difficulty levels.
Sure.
But you don't just have the terrifying AI to deal with. You also have to deal with the fact that out of the corner of your eyes, you notice that particular shadow just moved a little bit, and that desk across the way, the computer turned on, and just little bitty jump scares like you kind of expect out of any kind of horror movie. And then you see a little girl in a red dress, and she's giggling, and then she runs around a corner, and your interface gets screwy, and then blood's dripping from the ceiling, and then you're wading through 5 feet of blood on the floor. And then skeletons are emerging from the walls. and then you're back fighting the heavily armed AI troops as if nothing happened. And it just gets progressively worse from there. This little girl's name is Alma. And Alma, it's a bit of a spoiler, and I'm a bit hesitant to do it, but...
Spoiler alert for this 12-year-old game, guys.
I would recommend everybody go ahead and play it, but spoiler alert. So Alma has two forms, the 8-year-old little girl, and then the 16 to 18, I forget where her actual age was, desiccated husk of a young woman who has been locked away inside a psychically shielded room for the last several years or so, and left to basically starve to death. And so you have this alpha, she'd pretty much be an alpha level psyker in 40K terms, Brandon.
Because literally everything comes back to 40K.
Literally everything. Or maybe, as alpha level, which is the highest level of psyker beyond the Sword of the Emperor?
That's alpha. You're correct.
Alpha level psyker. She's capable of bringing about an apocalypse on her own. So
why did they put the apocalyptic doom creature in a hole?
They put the apocalyptic doom creature in a hole and left her to die. Well, her mind fractured, and you have the little girl aspect of her because from the time she was 8 years old, she was locked away and experimented upon to make epic level psychic soldiers. So her mind state remains as 8 years old. And then you come to find out that Paxton Fettel is her son.
Okay.
So you have to deal with the fact that Paxton Fettel is trying to release his mother's psychic ghost onto the world to cause an apocalypse.
This makes sense.
Well, yes. And then you find out...
Cytron74 says Alpha Plus is the highest psyker. Yes, that is technically correct. The best kind of correct. Thank you, Cytron.
For ironic reasons. The best reasons. However, then you find out that there were 2 children in this project. Would you care to guess who the second child is, Brandon?
Liquid Snake!
Close. So the player character, Point Man, is Paxton Fettel's twin brother.
Oh, so it actually literally is Liquid Snake.
Uh-huh. But, so that explains why the guy's been able to mulch through these AI super troops, because he has the ability to slow down time, which, might just be, oh, this is just cool bullet time because, hey, it's the early 2000s. Let's put bullet time in a game because the Matrix.
In fairness, okay, I know it's been almost 20 years now, but bullet time is still really cool.
I'm not arguing that. I'm saying that everything did it. But it explains why he's able to do it. He's literally slowing down the world around him so he can kill things. And so then you have to go into this black site that's been abandoned for several years. Keep in mind, as I stated, you have 8-year-old Alma, who's a psychic projection, who is trying to be helpful. You have the 16 to 18-year-old desiccated husk of Alma, who has been dead for many, many years. And then you have these adult men in their late 20s, early 30s, who are her children.
Wait.
Uh-huh.
Wait. Ugh.
Yep, she's been dead for 30 years, as it were. I'm probably getting the dates off, but something along those lines.
Sure, and we're not looking for exact around here. Actually, the plot of that seems terribly familiar. Did anybody play Resident Evil 7?
I did not.
Biohazard?
I didn't. I was playing other things at that time.
Well, I'm okay. That being the case, because that game isn't 12 years old, I'm going to try to avoid, or I'm going to not talk about it in too much depth, but there's a very similar thing that happens in that game with a little girl, because little girls are absolutely terrifying. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I guess that's all I was getting at. That little girls are terrifying.
And that's the first game. The second game, you play as a different character who's going in slightly before the events of the first game to try to see why another Black Ops team went. So keep in mind, by the events of the first game, the fear unit's been sent in after 2 elite Black Ops units have gone dark in investigating this. So you're going in as the second group, the leader of that, and for some reason he can also slow down time. Turns out he's also a psyker. But the events of that game get a little bit creepier because Alma's psychic husk has taken an unhealthy interest in the main character. Yeah.
When you say unhealthy interest, okay, a certain kind of thing comes to mind, and I don't want to know about that.
I won't spoil the game for you then.
Oh my god, it actually is that. Ugh.
So the third game starts up, and the point man, the main character from the first game, has been locked away. And then Paxton Fettle's psychic ghost comes and frees him. And then the two of them go off on a wacky, fun-filled adventure as co-op partners to stop their mother's psychic imprint ghost from giving birth to the apocalypse.
Okay, alright, so Naked Snake gets a psychic message from the Sorrow, who is dead.
Yeah.
And the psychic messages from the Sorrow, who is dead, lead him to defeat oh my god, they're not called Foxhound.
Is it Fox?
Cobra!
Fair enough.
Okay, but what I'm getting at here is I think the fear might just literally be Metal Gear Solid.
Sort of in some aspects of it, but it dives deep. Well, Metal Gear Solid, you have to deal more with stealth. There's no real stealth options in Fear. You're going to have to fight that 8-foot mech at some point. You're going to have to blow your way through squads upon squads of advanced AI troopers and, butchering them with shotguns that decapitate and blow off limbs, or a rail rifle that it basically fires a stake that will pin troops to the wall.
Well, that's pretty cool.
And ghosts, tons and tons of ghosts.
So let's talk about the way fear leverages fear, right? Because it sounds like most of the proper terror in the game comes from this backstory and the occasional glimpses you get of it. Is that true?
Well, yes, that's how they leverage fear. It's not in the same aspect of Dead Space where you have the jump scares and you can kind of tell when they're coming up and so on and so forth.
Oh, I've got a bone to pick with Dead Space actually when we're done talking about fear.
Yeah. And keep in mind, this is information I'm pulling from the deep dredges of my mind. The part where the tentacle that gives me my genius ideas exists. The terror aspects start off light in the game. You just kind of see, that chair moved. Oh, that maybe because there's a window open or a grenade went off, and things just kind of move. And then you're walking down a hallway, and you just kind of see glances of things out of the corner of your eye. And then you're fighting Paxton Fettle early on in this game. This is literally the first mission. You're thrown through a warehouse window, and things start exploding around you. But while things are exploding around you, you see Child Alma in her little red dress, and she's just walking slowly towards you through the flames as everything is exploding around you. And eventually you're thrown from this building as it explodes. And then it goes downhill from there, because the closer you get towards Mother, the worse things get. As in, you will have actually have situations where you're interface screwed. You think you're fighting something and it's not there, or you're led astray. And of course, the most terrifying thing of all: small children spider crawling through air vent.
Oh, good. Small children.
Spider crawling through air vents.
I mean, yeah.
And it just kind of goes up and up from there. And that's in the first game. The second game, since she's taken such an unhealthy interest in the protagonist, the psychic projections take on a different turn. And it also gets worse when you take this into accounting, Brandon. Thanks to TV tropes for somebody pointing this horrific thing out. In the second game, Alma is controlling the psychic troops. So she's implanting her. I mean, they're able to think and act on their own, but she's conditioning them, giving them orders, so on and so forth. Essentially, just psychic command override. But it's her personality is influencing them, and these troops are out to get you with her same unhealthy interest.
Oh. Ugh. Fun. Yeah.
I will say this: fears of it gets later on in the series. It gets a bit of a bad rap. Fear 3 was not near as good as the first two, but it's still a fun game to play.
Sure.
I recommend anybody check these games out because they have good shooting. They have decent shooter control. It feels good when you're playing the game. When you're firing an assault rifle, it just has a good feel to it. The shotguns are meaty and like an actual shotgun as opposed to the just, pull the trigger anything that's, within 3 feet of you and it dies. You can actually pulp something from, across a room with a shotgun blast. It feels good. The combat is good and meaty. Plus you can do things like slow down time, charge, slide, and then kick somebody into the air and then fill them full of assault rifle rounds and then send them flying into their buddies and then throw a grenade at the mech that's across the room.
Yeah, I think I actually have Fear 1 in my Steam library somewhere.
It's a good game. I recommend it. But it's lessened a bit by the fact that you know what's going on. Playing through the first time, I didn't know what was going on. It was absolutely terrible.
And I'm gonna address something real quick. Like I said a few minutes ago that I had a bone to pick with Dead Space, and I'm gonna explain what that is. Okay.
Okay.
The only proper fear in Dead Space is the mounting realization of exactly what you're dealing with.
Cthulhu cult?
No, it's not even the cultists, right? The fact that there is a cult, okay, fine, there's a cult, but no, what the actual scary thing in Dead Space is specifically what the necromorphs actually are. And the mounting realization of what they actually are. Apart from that, Dead Space is literally just an endless string of jump scares that is intended to keep you on edge and frightened, but it doesn't. It doesn't do that. You're just always ready to tap. You're just always ready to tap your trigger.
I mean, it's that, and you're also ready to just dismember every corpse you come across.
Well, exactly. Like, it makes you paranoid. It does do that, but
like that first fucking jump scare right in front of that save point. That one.
Yeah, that one. We all know that one.
And then it just kind of went off the rails. So it went from less just straight up survival horror to I never really played Dead Space 3 much. Just kind of seemed more like a co-op
action game, I guess. But
co-op
again,
shooter.
I even have this complaint in Dead Space 1. Like, they replaced like atmospheric horror with more jump scares, and I know that that's the trend. Okay, movies have been doing that too, right? But it just doesn't work.
So would you say that what was it called? The Alien game, the one they came out with the last couple
Alien
years
Isolation, yeah, that shit is terrifying.
Oh yeah, I will refuse to touch that game.
That is terrifying for a very specific reason, okay? That is terrifying because you know exactly what you are up against. You know that you cannot do anything about it. It's just somewhere nearby. It's always somewhere nearby. And without warning, at any second, its tail could just impale you.
So in that case, what makes so would you so the God damn it! I think I failed my first save.
Yay!
The oh god damn, what are the games? Fucking Whistleblower.
Oh, Outlast.
Outlast.
Yeah, so I appreciate the Outlast games for the same reason that I appreciate Alien Isolation, because again, you are pretty much helpless in this situation.
Right, but it seems like the Outlast games just
they're a lot more jump scary and less good than like Alien Isolation, but
and I can appreciate the jump scare. It's just something that, like, I don't want to play either one of these games because Outlast doesn't appeal to me, and Alien Isolation terrifies the piss out of me. But I'd be more inclined to play Alien Isolation because it looks like it's just a more in-depth, interesting, and fun, if terrifying game.
Well, Outlast. Okay, so Outlast, the Outlast series has a mystery to solve, right? It's not like it's just a horror game. Like you're trying to figure something out over the course of the game, and you know that part is interesting. It's just that I have a personal distaste for jump scares. I just think they're lazy horror.
Yeah, one could easily say that. I mean, it's easy, and I'm not saying that all jump scares are bad. Jump scares can serve a purpose,
not.
But if your entire premise is to depend on jump scares, you're doing something wrong.
Well, like we can talk about Alien Isolation for a second, because you know, Alien Isolation has jump scares, but the jump scares that happen in Alien Isolation are due to the fact that a stealthy alien predator is hunting you. They feel organic. They feel natural. They feel like what should be happening in this situation.
Right, absolutely. Where you could potentially, I'm unfamiliar with how the game is set up. I haven't, like I said, I haven't played it. I've just seen a couple of Let's Plays on it and so on and so forth. It almost feels as though if you got incredibly lucky with how the AI is set up for the alien creature, you could potentially avoid it throughout most of the game without ever coming across it. And then another run, you could get completely unlucky and come across it constantly.
That is true, actually. There's so the alien, like the alien creature's AI, I want to say it has its own set of priorities and goals. So it's not specifically hunting you. You're just a target of opportunity to it.
Right. It's what I imagine Alien Isolation would be similar to what they initially wanted to do with the Evolve game. Remember?
I do remember Evolve.
It had such potential, but it just kind of...
It was just okay in the end.
I mean, it just boiled down to, like, oh, we have one team who's out to kill this creature, and we have another team, the creature's out to survive. It seems like they could have done it better if they had, conflicting objectives. Like, the creature didn't have to come into contact with the strike team if they didn't need to. They could go and complete their objective and win that way, or so on and so forth. And the team, they could be out to try to do something else. It's just the fact that it's just, oh, we have 4 guys and isometric shooter. And it just, I mean, it was fun, but I think they could have done so much more, specifically if they diversified the objectives.
No, see, I've got a counterpoint to that, okay?
Okay.
And my counterpoint to that is Dead by Daylight. Dead by Daylight's also a 4v1.
Ooh.
It's also
yes,
4v1, and the one has absolute power in the situation, right? The monster, you cannot stop him. He is coming after you, and there is nothing you can do about it. All you can do is try to accomplish the objectives and escape the map, right?
Right.
And that game, even though I know it's a human being on the other end of that monster, is fucking terrifying.
Well, I mean, that just goes into not so much existential horror, but the fact that there's nothing more terrifying on this planet than other human beings.
Oh, I'm going to argue that all day long. We'll talk about that later on. But you're not wrong. People are terrifying.
Absolutely. Hell, we're some of those terrifying people.
Indeed. Like, okay, so that's actually the thing about Dead by Daylight, right? You can't abuse AI because there is no AI to abuse. You can be tricksy. You can try to trick a human. But doing the kind of stuff that you do to avoid a monster that's controlled by AI doesn't actually work on humans.
Oh no, because humans aren't going to get stuck on that piece of terrain, and humans are going to understand when a simple misdirection.
Right, exactly. Like, it's Dead by Daylight is the only example I have ever seen of a multiplayer horror game that is actually frightening.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Where actually frightening, because then you have other games like what is that other one, Deceit, where it's just, you're essentially just playing with Mafia but with guns and actual 3D thing. That's less terrifying.
Yeah, it's
and more
Mafia
just
in a dark environment, right? It's a fun game,
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's just not scary.
Absolutely. Oh boy, I love when we get on these tangents. They're so much.
What tangent? We're talking about... We're on topic, motherfucker. We are on topic.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, I think the big issue that comes from a lot of horror games nowadays is the fact that, and don't get me wrong, I have nothing against Let's Players or anything else. If I had more time, I'd try doing it. But I think the big issue with a lot of horror games is as soon as they hit, everyone and their fucking mother has a Twitch stream up or videos going on YouTube of what's going on in the game. And you very rarely nowadays have situations where you can go in with a horror game and be just absolutely terrified the entire way through.
Well, see, that's because you get those sweet clicks when you do horror games on your stream. Because everyone likes to see people scream. No one really likes horror games.
Yeah, but I could get the same satisfaction from watching somebody who's not good at Battlefield go into Battlefield and try to be, try hard in Battlefield because it's hilarious.
Yes, but he's not scared. I think that the Let's Play community for horror games is really interesting because the viewer's not there to get scared at all.
The viewer's there to laugh.
The viewer is there to laugh at the player getting scared. There's not even proxy fear to be had there.
You know what I think the best horror game is?
What do you think?
Oh god damn it! I can't remember the name of it now. Fuck. Trivia Murder Party.
Into fucking what?
I was joking.
Oh wait, yeah, I played that game. I couldn't remember what game you were talking about.
Yeah, Trivia Murder Party. Hell, we've played it together.
Yes, we did. I know. I've forgotten. Okay. Can I forget? Is that cool?
I don't know. How drunk are you?
Not very.
Get drunker, motherfucker.
I'm working on it. Shit. Anyway. I've hit a couple times, right, on helplessness, right, on why helplessness is important.
Oh, yeah.
Alien Isolation is scary because Amanda Ripley cannot stop that monster. Dead by Daylight is scary because, yeah, that's a human on the other end of that guy, but that human has a lot of power you don't have.
There's a lot of power you don't have, and as always, depending on what kind of human you're playing against, you can play against somebody who's just not good at it. But if you play against a devious bastard in Dead by Daylight, you're fucked.
Right, and that is why I have a special place in my heart for Eternal Darkness.
Oh, go on.
Because Eternal Darkness, and we're going to talk about Cosmic Horror here for a second, and because we're talking about Cosmic Horror, I have to talk about H.P. Lovecraft. Now, I am well aware, right, that H.P. Lovecraft was super racist, right? Even for a guy in the 1920s, super racist. But I believe in death of the author, okay? Just because the guy is super racist doesn't mean that Cthulhu is super racist. Leave that shit out. Anyway.
I mean, it's some of the greatest aspects of cosmic and semi-existential
Well, it
horror.
invented cosmic horror, but just, I'm just noting that yes, I'm aware that Lovecraft is super racist. I'm sorry, but
Oh, yeah.
Eternal Darkness was my introduction to the genre, and a good introduction it was because Eternal Darkness manages to shoot that gap, right? On the one hand, you are not helpless. There are zombies, there are eldritch horrors, there are things from beyond the beyond the veil, and you are perfectly capable of shooting most of those things in the head until they die.
Rock salt shotgun, motherfucker.
Indeed. You are perfectly capable of doing that. But the antagonists of the game are gods. And I don't mean that in the they are just way more powerful than you sense. I mean that in the sense that you are literally being antagonized by actual gods.
Little G, but still.
And unlike God of War, you cannot beat them to death with their own fists.
Because you are also not a god.
Exactly.
This isn't fucking Dungeons and Dragons Forgotten Realms where you can have semi-mild mannered former assassin Father Irvis Kale stab his god mask in the ribs with a fucking.
That was a reference there, Steve.
I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that got it, but by God, I made it.
Oh no, I got it. That's how I could tell you it was a reference there, Steve.
That's a deep cut there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, buddy. But okay, so Eternal Darkness, right?
Not as deep. Yeah, go ahead.
Eternal Darkness did two things really, really well, okay? It established that you do not comprehend what is going on. Not the character, you the player. You cannot comprehend what is going on in this game. You have to follow the clues and do the things and fight the enemies, but what these creatures actually are, you do not know. You can't know. Not exactly. And
well, you can know, but you're probably going to go insane from
right,
the
exactly. Like, the other thing that it does really well is because the game has you go chronologically through a whole bunch of, not even chronologically, like a chronology, through a whole bunch of different characters, you don't actually know who, survives. Like, in the first few... Okay. So the way the game works is you're playing as a character in the present who finds a book. And each time she reads a chapter of the book, you play that chapter as the character that chapter was about. So characters from hundreds of years ago, characters from 20 years ago, so on and so forth.
Characters from the future if you're really diving into the whole fucked up timeline bull.
Yes, that's also true, but I'm not actually going to go into that because time is not made out of lines, it is made out of circles. That is why clocks are round.
Thank you, Caboose.
Yes. So, as you play through each chapter, right, you don't actually know what's going to happen. Because you're not in a position where you're like, well, obviously I win this because otherwise there wouldn't be a game. You're not in that position. Anything could happen.
You're in a position where it is a story being told by not necessarily the main character, be told by an outside source, in which case that character that you're playing as could die at any moment.
Exactly. Like, you have no idea what's going to happen. You can assume, based on, meta-knowledge, that there's going to be enough gameplay to make a whole chapter, so clearly I'm not going to die in the first 5 minutes here. But then,
But you could.
Right, you could.
So would you say that this aspect is what separates games like Eternal Darkness from games like Silent?
Potentially, because that's one thing about, like, it kind of cuts the horror aspect of games, right? In that at some point you have to win. This game is winnable. You can beat this game. Therefore, it's not that scary, is kind of what I'm getting at.
That's fair.
Like, there is an outcome. There is an outcome where the game is over and you have won. Even if the ending kind of sucks. It just depends.
Fair enough.
And that right there is why Cosmic Horror is so amazing. Because in Cosmic Horror, there is no ending where you win.
There are only endings where you stave off the annihilation of the human race for a few more millennia.
Maybe. If that. Because who knows what Mantarok's plotting.
Speaking of staving off the annihilation of the human race for a few more millennia, do we want to dive into one of our favorite sources of just creepiness and existential horror?
Are you referring to SCP?
Yes.
Actually, yes. I do want to get into that. I want to get into that in a very specific way, okay? The SCP Foundation, the SCP Wiki, Steven, would you go ahead and link that again? Because everyone who watches our channel probably should have this link in their bookmarks, honestly, at this point, because we're gonna talk about it all the time, okay? We talked about... I think we have mentioned the SCP Foundation in every episode we've done.
I can't.
Oh, right, I have to, sorry.
I will pull up one of the best descriptions of what SCP is, if you don't mind a little dramatic.
I feel like probably most of our viewers are aware already. I'm just gonna link it, and then we're gonna talk about it.
That's fair.
And while I'm linking it, I'm gonna talk about the other thing that I really loved about Eternal Darkness. Okay. The Bone Thieves. The Bone Thieves were the best. Because you didn't know who was a bone thief. Or whether that zombie was a bone thief. Or whether when I killed that zombie, a bone thief was going to burst out and then try to eat my face. When Bone Thieves started happening, the paranoia level of that game ratcheted up so high. And, okay, yeah, it's not like... That's not fear, exactly. But the paranoia was there. Every random servant you pass by... If I look at you funny, are you going to explode into a bone thief?
Maybe.
Maybe. But all of them. Everybody. And then, in the end of that chapter, when, spoiler alert, Maximilian Roivas shoots everybody in his fucking mansion because half of them are bone thieves, you understand that decision. Yeah, I would have done the same thing. At least half of you are bone thieves. I'm shooting everyone.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. So, SCP. The Secure, Contain, and Protects over there. I find these good for the same reasons I like Cosmic Horror.
I find them good pretty much for the same reason.
Yeah, it's because you cannot understand what is going on. You can get a fix on it. You can say, well, if X happens, then Y will happen. But you don't know why. You don't know how. You don't know if it's going to continue doing that tomorrow. There's an animated teddy bear that likes to give people lots of love. We assume it's safe. We don't know. We don't know how it works. We don't know why it does what it does. We just assume it's safe and hope that, well, turns out it wasn't so safe, was it?
Oh no.
I'm going to go ahead and link that one.
I had my heart set on doing the reading of Black White.
I have no idea what that is.
Oh, it's so good. It's like one of the introductory things.
Oh, for SCP.
Yeah. Yesterday, I watched 3 men die because one man sneezed in a room full of blood and shit and light. Today, 3 more men go in, cheap mops, and each other's lives in their hands.
Right. Yeah. I've read this one, yep.
To basically sum up SCP, I'm alive to write about it. You want happy endings? Fuck you. You're alive to read it. God help us all. Secure, contain, protect.
Yes, indeed. So, SCP. For those not aware, it is functionally just a bunch of stories about a foundation, a group of people whose whole raison d'etre is to take anomalous artifacts, stuff that does stuff that it shouldn't be doing, and lock it up and keep it locked up. And that's all they do. That's the whole thing. And there's varying quality of articles, but what it does very well is create a sense of mounting horror because, again, you do not know how these things work. You can't know how these things work. That's what makes them anomalous.
And as soon as, and if in the article it's described how the things work, it's usually heavily redacted.
Right. Because if you knew everything, it wouldn't be scary. And that, again, that is why we like cosmic horror, right? Because if you know about it, it can be scary. But if you know how it works, then it's not.
I think some of the most terrifying stuff on the fucking site, like SCP-231 and Procedure 110 Montauk.
They're terrifying because you don't know what they are.
Exactly.
You just assume they're horrible because they're obviously horrible.
There are very, very few happy endings in SCP.
Well, there are very, very few happy endings in cosmic horror. I'm saying these two things are related.
Oh, yeah.
The thing about cosmic horror, okay, from a storytelling perspective, right? When you're writing cosmic horror, say, or worse, trying to include it in a tabletop game, you really have to shoot a gap. Kind of like, it's kind of threading a needle even. Where, on the one hand, in order for it to be cosmic horror, your player must be helpless. But a player who is helpless is not having fun.
Would you say that gap is not much bigger than 2 meters?
It's about the size of a womp rat, yeah.
But continue, sorry. I had to make a rep.
So, I've been leveraging a lot of cosmic horror in the Genius of Transgression campaign that I'm running for your group.
I'm aware.
Yeah, I know. And mostly that comes in on the sidelines, right? It exists somewhere out there, and only very rarely does the party have to experience firsthand the horrifying things that they're having, or that are known to exist, but that they don't have to deal with very often. And my goal, and I don't know if I'm succeeding at this, so, people who are playing in my game do feel free to bitch me out at exactly this moment. My goal was to create a sense of mounting dread, right? To suggest, without exactly saying, what kind of terrible things are waiting right on the sidelines and could suddenly become major issues at any given moment, up to and including the complete annihilation of major cities.
Which we have existed through.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, you are doing a fantastic job, in my opinion, of just mounting the horror because you're to the point now where you're bringing in objects and things and entities that resemble entities I'm familiar with from the SCP archives, like Arturo.
That that was hilarious. So, in Genius the Transgression, there is a pre-built NPC named Arturo, right? And Arturo is a guy who likes to walk around in a plague doctor mask because he believes in the miasma theory of disease. And because this is Genius the Transgression, because he believes in the miasma theory of disease, his inventions that are based on that theory actually work. But in SCP, there is another guy who, well, I guess his face is a plague doctor mask. He's not wearing that. It just is his face. And he murders people and then raises them from the dead as zombies. And that's just what he does. He considers it curing the Great Plague. So,
Oh yes.
so when Steve's group ran across an entity wearing a plague doctor mask, out of character, Steve shat himself. Only to find out that it was not actually the thing that kills people and then raises them as zombies, it's actually the guy who believes in miasma theory.
But it was I, Dio.
Yes, indeed. That was a hilarious gaming experience because I literally said the words, "He is wearing a bird-shaped plague doctor mask," and Steven screamed.
Yep.
Not really screamed, kind of a
True story.
yelp. You definitely yelped, though.
I think it was more on the lines of "fuck."
Yep, that is exactly what it was. So...
Oh, I was ready to level that fucking police precinct, by the way.
I know you. You're always wanting to level everything. That's your character's, thing.
Yeah, like the time I wandered off on my own to face a god?
Yeah, that happened. I'm not going to tell you what that thing was.
I'm assuming it was some sort of fucked up true fate.
Closer than I'd like to admit, not as close as you'd hope.
I did damage, that's all I care about.
Yeah, fair enough. So, there's a couple of tricks, right? There's a couple of tricks to leveraging horror against your group. And those are, A, to keep it subtle. Until it's suddenly not subtle. And the other is, and this is true whether you're in a horror game or not, right? Never let them see the stats. Take Dungeons and Dragons, okay? In Dungeons and Dragons, you go into that game with the expectation that with good tactical play, good builds, that game is winnable. Absolutely. Anything that your DM is going to throw at you, you can defeat. You can get unlucky and die, but anything you're going to get thrown at, you can defeat. You have that expectation, because if your GM is throwing things at you that you can't defeat, the game is not fun. Which is why you throw that curveball. Which is why, in this one instance, say, I don't know, you throw them into an encounter that they cannot win. Not without extreme luck, anyway. You throw an encounter at them where their only options are flee or die, for example. Or
like facing a juvenile red dragon at first level.
For example, yes. Or put them in a situation where they can't fight their way out. Put them in a situation where fighting will not work. Or suggest through narrative that there is something else, something dark, something beyond, that they cannot fight. Because, again, you're having to shoot this gap. If you want to leverage fear against your party, you have to simultaneously make them feel helpless, but not make them actually helpless. Because if they're actually helpless, you're not playing a game anymore. You're telling a story. Like, it's just not even valuable at that point. But if you can thread that needle, then you can create a situation where your players are starting to get they're starting to get excited, they're starting to get antsy, they're starting to get paranoid, they're starting to think about all the possibilities, they're starting to wonder to themselves, will I survive the next session? What's going to happen? Are we going to be okay?
Oh, absolutely, and you've done that remarkably well. And there's been several other groups I've been a part of, but another thing that you can do is...
Did that guy give me the stink eye because he doesn't like me, or is he secretly a bone thief?
There you go. It also comes down to this. As a storyteller or GM or DM, whatever you're doing in a game, you can also take into account what your players know about the world they're in, as Brandon has done on numerous occasions, particularly with me.
Right, because I am aware that you know certain things about the SCP Foundation, and the SCP Foundation features heavily in the game we're playing. So I will occasionally use phrases or other things that hint at that meta-knowledge that I know you have, but you can't actually trust any of it.
Like, and which point, it's not even really affecting the character, you're affecting the player playing the character, but at which point you can almost always see a dramatic change in how the player is playing their character.
Well, now, and that is something that's kind of unique to that campaign specifically, because the Genius campaign is, like, strongly meta, right? Not in the sense of, like, player knowledge affecting character actions, but in the sense of, like, while we are playing, I give my players suggestions. They're not always good suggestions, but they are suggestions. And the suggestions
You guys should totally shoot that demon. That'll be fun.
Exactly. The suggestions that I give are technically in character, because Genius the Transgression is a World of Darkness line, and it being a World of Darkness line, the player characters are just a tiny bit insane. So the suggestions that I'm giving are kind of intended to be something bubbling up from the player's unconscious, you know. Hey, try that. Maybe this'll work. And so on and so forth. Attack the thing, or do a attack the thing, or hey, did you talk to that person? And they're not always helpful. In fact, sometimes they're the exact opposite of helpful, because, and this is another part of the cosmic horror in that game, the voice that I am speaking with when I give my players suggestions has a mind of its own.
The bees!
The bees, right. The bees have a mind of their own. They are a character kind of in their own right, even though they're not at all recognizable as human. The suggestions that I'm giving are self-serving for something else. They are not necessarily in your best interest. And in that way, I'm trying to develop a and talking about this in meta is probably going to just ruin the spell, but I'm trying to create the sense that your own mind and your own decisions aren't necessarily always your own.
I think we picked up on that a long time ago.
Good. Because that's the goal. That's what I wanted. Because the narrative of that game... The narrative of that game is intended to have you questioning your own mind, and is intended to have you questioning causality.
Oh, causality, you fickle bitch.
Indeed, causality is a fickle bitch.
So, I just want to expand on this topic a little bit for any budding GM, storytellers, or DMs out there. There's also a potential you could use for what we've described, and using what your player base knows about the setting and so on and so forth. Another way to instill a sense of fear and dread in your players and the characters they're playing is to subtly let on that perhaps not everybody is above board. Maybe not everybody's working towards the same goal. Just because you found 5 people in the dungeons who are willing to go on this quest to save the kingdom means that all 5 of them are following along with that same objective. And so then you set in with the paranoia that maybe someone's a traitor, or maybe someone's out for something else, or maybe someone's an fucking cosmic horror in disguise. You just don't know. And you can play that to the fucking hilt to terrify and just befuddle your players, and that just leads to so much more drama, and it's delicious.
From now on, somebody in all of my games is going to be a bone thief. I'm not going to say who.
That's not post facto, is it?
You better bloody believe.
Oh fuck! Is Chuck a bone thief now?
No.
It's gonna be Slip.
Why would it be Slip?
I mean, Slip is already the fucking surgeon and trying to combine the entire world into one massive super.
Yeah. True. Anyway. So that is that's kind of how I go about trying to leverage fear in the game. I try to make the players second guess themselves. I try to suggest the type of horror that's going on the sidelines. I throw things at the players that the rules do not describe. And my hope, again, is to develop a sense of excitement and fear. There's still other ways you can leverage fear, though, and you don't feel like, again, we're talking about leveraging fear, and I'm talking about a specific horror game, but that's not necessarily what you have to do. Even your standard dungeon crawl can leverage fear.
Standard dungeon crawl leveraging fear? That reminds me of.
Oh, good, because I didn't have anything to say, so.
So I'm pretty sure a lot of people out there are familiar with a lovely little game that came out within the last several years that basically defines a bit of cosmic
Bloodborne
dungeon crawl.
Oh.
Darkest Dungeon.
Oh yeah, Darkest Dungeon. I didn't play Darkest Dungeon.
The fuck you mean?
I mean that I didn't play Darkest Dungeon?
How have you not played Darkest Dungeon?
I haven't played Slay the Spire either.
God damn it. Yeah, but you're familiar with the concept of Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah, I think so.
So for anybody else not familiar with Darkest Dungeon...
Oh yes, please, let's talk about Darkest Dungeon, because I'm probably not going to have time to play it.
Don't worry. We'll solve that. Darkest Dungeon is this lovely side-scrolling dungeon crawler, pretty much just a roguelike in a lot of aspects. It came out several years ago, and it just loves diving into cosmic horror and a bit of existential horror. The premise of the game is you are the heir to an inheritance of an old mansion on a cliffside in an ancient and desiccated forest. And your ancestor once attempted to delve too greedily and too deep and came across something.
Is it a horror of Shadow and Flame?
It is not a horror of Shadow and Flame. It's more of a horror of gristle and bones and meat, something resembling a beehive and a human heart, but the size of a fucking elephant with weird screeching faces and
a sharp-edged lantern thing?
Sort of. So you inherited this accursed, haunted estate. You have various areas, and you have a forest area that's controlled by bandits, and creepy crawlies. You have the tombs of the mansion itself, which are controlled by the undead. You have the cove, which essentially is just Lovecraft. You have freaky fish people climbing up from the depths, willing to destroy humanity. And you have the Weld, which is essentially just the ancestors' attempt at bioengineering. He made pig people whose entire purpose is to essentially go out, grab other humans to add to their. And then you add in the court, which is essentially vampires, but instead of normal vampires, they're insects. So you have strange creatures, which are like a mix between a mosquito and a tick, but in the body of a human. And then you have the farm, which is literally cosmic horror. Something has crashed from the heavens and destroyed the farm and is infecting everyone in a chrysalid style. And your objective is to take back these lands and save humanity. And you do so by hiring adventurers. The very bare bones of adventurers, because these are crusaders who have gone astray, and highwaymen and bounty hunters and northern barbarians and plague doctors, and all along the way. They have various skills and abilities that they're capable of interacting with and using. And you go with a team of 4 and you're to plunge these dungeons. And as you go through, you're facing, armies and legions of skeletons that throw a mixture of acid and blood at you to lower your sanity, and human cultists.
So sounds about like a Friday afternoon.
It is, but where the game comes, and it's on its own, it's not terrifying. It's more fun and just stressful to play with. Your characters don't take a lot of hits. It's, you might at most have somebody who has HPs in the 40s, and they take hits and they get hit very hard.
Okay.
When they reach 0, they don't die. They reach this state called death's door. But they have another meter, a meter called their sanity meter, where there are various attacks and creatures that just are so much the antithesis of the human mind that they can literally warp your party's minds to such an extent that they go insane. And they can either go insane and get something glorious like, oh, they're vengeful and now they hit harder, or maybe they become a masochist, or maybe they become a cannibal, or maybe they just enjoy the sight of blood and refuse to heal anyone. And so you have to leverage this party, which you can hire more of. But since it's got a little bit of roguelike to it, your party is dying constantly.
So you basically are just taking a party of half-mad lunatics that you're basically stuck with, and trying to do a dungeon.
I mean, you can fire anybody anytime, and at any point, any of your characters can die. But you have to start from level 0 and raise them up to level 6.
Right.
And it takes a bit to level them up to that point, and they can hit very hard, and they've got some significant stuff. But it's just terrifying. There's a creature, I've never faced it because I've luckily I came across, don't summon this creature before I summon this creature called the Shambler, which I've never seen, which is apparently just a party wipe whenever you summon it, unless you're alt tier 6. There is the Collector. The Collector shows up as an 8-foot tall man wearing a cloak and a cage around his flaming skull. And he opens up his coat, and it's just filled with the skulls of fallen adventurers. And he can summon fallen adventurers as his cohort.
I see.
So the terror is less on the aspect of what it does to the player, but more for what you're exposing your party to. You're forcing these men and women, some noble, some not, to the just darkest of horrors in an attempt to regain your lost inheritance. Plus, the narrator is known for doing Lovecraftian horror. He did like an ebook. So it's just this glorious, dark and dank, and the art style is beautiful. And you're just diving into this and just being exposed to these weird creations.
That sounds delightful.
I figured you'd like it. And it's one of those games where you can set out to play through the entire playthrough. You can set it down. It's not, everything's sort of similar, but not. That's just a fun game, and I think you'd enjoy it. But it just dives into the existential horror because you're dealing with a cosmic horror that your ancestor slowly dug up and became exposed to, and started doing things like taking a gibbering prophet and removing his eyes and locking him in stocks, and he became a boss, or creating weird abominations of pig and human that thirst for blood and haunt the area known as the Weald. And then you have the Sahagin types.
The Fatagan types?
The Toboggan type?
I don't think I can beat Toboggan. A meat toboggan!
Hear that, Asuna? A meat toboggan.
Oh yeah, that was from you originally.
Yup. So, I mean, that also comes to the fact that we're diving into the fear and terror. And it's less on the player side, as I'm saying, but, you can have a horror game that just affects the player you're playing as, or the character you're playing as you mentioned with Eternal Darkness. I remember there being a lot of interface screws with that as well, correct?
Yeah, there were. In retrospect, they weren't as good as I like to think, but at the time, they were brilliant.
I mean, they were all pretty much just an entire game around the Psycho Mantis fight from Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, you just have to change the controller.
That was
a thing that occurred, all right.
That was a thing that once existed.
I see you like playing such and such.
The funny thing is, he said to me, I see you like Eternal Darkness. It's like, Psycho Mantis, stop. Stop reading my memory card. I did like how Revolver Ocelot called me a coward because I save all the time.
Yeah, it's Revolver Ocelot. He lost a fucking hand. Who are you gonna believe?
God, that series got weird.
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear. Weapon to surpass Metal Gear.
I think we mentioned we dove into video games and tabletop games. Do you want to dive into other media as well? I believe we mentioned Fear and Loathing.
I did mention Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Only in the sense that Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas doesn't have any fear in it, and very little loathing, and only some Las Vegas.
Yeah, the rest looks like it's from a fucking on set of the terrible Mario Brothers.
Now that said, okay. Oh, that's the dinosaur disco scene. That scene's amazing. That said, right? Fear and Loathing is interesting because it's in a lot of ways it's an interesting little study of like altered modes of thought, let's say.
They were on something throughout the entire movie. Let's not shy away.
AKA being high off your tits, yes. But
just remember, this is Bat Country.
We can't stop here. But yeah, that low level paranoia kind of follows you through the whole movie, and it's kind of interesting, like how the director kind of did that, like made you feel this paranoia that this guy's feeling, which he's only feeling because he's super high and everyone knows it.
Absolutely. Or he thinks everyone knows it.
Well,
in some instances.
Again, the truest of horror comes from not knowing where the line between paranoia and reality is.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, I can talk about you know what really isn't in movies?
What is not really in movies?
Cosmic horror.
I think there's been some movies that attempted to go towards some cosmic horror aspects, but really, I think the closest they get to is you have the whole heaven and hell, for religious aspects, which less cosmic, more demon.
Demons. Event Horizon. That's cosmic horror, I would say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Event Horizon is absolutely cosmic horror because it's also the prequel to 40K.
Right. That's true. I actually really dig that about 40K. That mostly it's actually just a cosmic horror setting, but it's like 5 different cosmic horror settings layered on top of each other.
Sounds like that's a good place to dive into next.
Let's not. Let's have one episode where we don't spend 40 minutes talking about 40K.
40 minutes talking about 40K. Lol.
Okay, let's have one episode where we don't spend 40,000 minutes talking about 40K.
That's more like it.
Yep, there it is. That said, actually, the horror of 40K is not actually cosmic, I don't think. Yes, there is cosmic horror in 40K, right? There's the Chaos Gods. They're cosmic horror. They're entities beyond human comprehension that feed on our... No, they don't even count as cosmic horror.
There's cosmic horror in 40K. They're absolutely...
No, the Chaos Gods do not count as cosmic horror.
The Tyranids count as cosmic horror because they don't. They
can understand
the fucking universe.
You can understand the Tyranids.
Nom nom nom?
Om nom nom. They are nothing but om nom nom. They want to eat you. That's all.
Alright. What about the fucking Catan?
They're trapped in Pokeballs.
Pre-trapped in Pokeball state.
You can still understand them. They just want to eat you.
The old ones.
We can't know. They are dead and old.
But they made the fucking Eldar, which split off and became, fucking dickish space elves, and then SD and fucking BDSM dickish space elves. And they made the fucking orcs.
Yeah, to fight the Necrons. It makes sense.
It does, but alright. So just follow me on this. The old ones made the orcs. So the old ones made possibly one of the most successful creatures to exist in the 40K setting.
And forgot to install a fucking off switch.
Correct.
But look, okay, this is why 40K is not cosmic horror, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Chaos Gods care about you.
Papa Nurgle does love all.
The Chaos Gods care about you. They cannot exist without you in particular, you listening to this podcast, without your constant hating on people and fapping to the terrible things you fap to, and catching diseases and wanting to die, and making plans. They can't exist without that. So that's what makes it not cosmic horror, because cosmic horror, the very necessary thing about cosmic horror is that the universe does not care about you. The universe does not care about all of us. All of us together are nothing but a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam that Voyager looked at one time. That is literally all we are in cosmic horror. And that's why 40K isn't cosmic horror, because universe. In 40K the gods need us.
So which just brings back to what I said earlier on, that the most terrifying thing in creation is man.
Yeah, that's probably true.
No, follow me on this. The most terrifying thing in existence is man, because we have gone out of our way to create a concept of cosmic horror. It did not really exist before Lovecraft.
Yeah, that's true, but it was kind of a natural... It was kind of a natural result of a deeper understanding of a universe that doesn't care about us. Because in real life, the universe doesn't care about us because it's incapable of caring about anything. Because it's, a universe.
Fair enough.
Like, pre-1900, basically all of pre-1900, the public consensus was, humans are the most important thing. God put us here. God put this earth here for us. Zeus or whatever. The world is here for us. We are the thing. We are the only thing. We are all that matters. And then, astronomy rolls around and physics rolls around, and we come to find out that the universe is way, way bigger than any of us ever gave it credit for. So big that we can't possibly be important. And that's when that gets leveraged into cosmic horror. Because yes, okay, Lovecraft was coming from a racist place, but he still did a thing that no one before him had done, but that someone was going to do. He anthropomorphized the universe, the whole thing, and asked, why would that care? And the answer is it doesn't. And that's what makes it terrifying.
Ooh, I just got chills.
Cthulhu actually is not... Yog-Sothoth, okay? Yog-Sothoth is not scary because it wants to harm you. It is scary because it will destroy everything you've ever known without noticing. It is too big to care.
Oh, yeah. That's that good existential horror there.
Exactly. That is why I love cosmic horror so goddamn much.
I want to. Let's see. Well, you raised a point earlier. Like, has there ever been anything in
right? Do we
Hollywood
have
or
cosmic
media?
horror in movies? That's a good question.
It
Chat,
should.
feel free to chime in if you can think of anything I'm not, because I just can't think of anything.
Well, I'm sitting here racking my brain against it. I mean, like, the closest we have, like you mentioned earlier, is Event Horizon.
Right, and there's a cosmic horror element to Event Horizon because there's apparently a whole universe of, well, pretty much the warp, I guess. So, yeah, fair enough.
Okay, what about the universe doesn't care, so the universe, isn't going out of its way to send a massive fucking asteroid careening towards Earth.
Right, you're right, yeah.
So Armageddon is a cosmic horror movie?
Kinda, actually, when you think about it with your brain, because okay, the only thing about it is that Armageddon's not a horror movie. We win in the end, as a species. The human race wins, right? And that's true in Deep Impact as well. But this concept that's in both movies, that at any moment, unbeknownst to us, we could suddenly be wiped out of existence by an uncaring universe. That's pretty cosmic horror. And also pretty metal.
That is some of the most metal shit I've ever thought of.
But yeah, you're right. Like, there is a cosmic horror element to all of those old school disaster movies where, through no fault of our own, right, we could just be annihilated for no reason. Because it's true.
I mean,
the universe does not care.
Except for all the ones where you're having to deal with the world ending because humanity is evil and corrupting the environment.
See, that's why I didn't include The Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah, because it's ostensibly our fault.
Right, and sure, okay, fine. There's a certain usefulness to the humanity is terrible and therefore evil shit happens to us kind of story. That's fine. That's basically what every Alien movie is. I'm sorry. I mean Alien Invasion movie. I don't mean Alien as in xenomorphs.
Because xenomorphs just don't care. Xenomorph gonna xenomorph.
Yeah, xenomorph gonna xeno. But, like, for example, okay, Independence Day, okay?
Yeah.
And I know, okay, Independence Day gets a lot of hate nowadays. I still liked it. I'm sorry. Anyway, Independence Day, okay? Independence Day has a very specific message, and that message is the aliens that are invading for our resources are basically just us. That is what we will become if we use up all our resources and get into space. We'll just be space locusts going around stealing everybody's resources like assholes.
I don't imagine that it's a matter of if. I imagine it's just a matter of when we become space locusts.
Exactly, but that was the point of that movie. The point of that movie was, our own environmental destruction. And okay, I may be reading an awful lot into two lines that Jeff Goldblum said. I may be reading too much into two lines that Jeff Goldblum said, but
I was worried where you were going with that because I was thinking you weren't going to pull the fucking reference out, but then I realized, you're making a reference while you're making the reference.
Exactly. I may be reading too much into two lines he said, but the point of that movie is that the aliens were kind of just behaving the way we do. They need our resources, they come and take them. That's not cosmic horror, sure, but that's kind of that human horror again, because that is very easily something I could imagine us doing.
Not even imagine. It's something we do on a regular fucking basis.
That's true. It's something we do all the time on a smaller scale.
Which then leads into this. Here's my question. Because I'm a fan of a lot of sci-fi settings and things of that nature. You're going from that. Why does, by and large, it seems like there's more of a lion's share for settings where humanity reaches into the stars and becomes this noble, bright future, a la fucking Star Trek?
Because we can always hope, okay?
Trying to remember the fucking litany here, but hope is a tool for the weak.
And fear is the fucking mind killer, but we're talking about it all night.
Goddamn right.
Look, the idea that there is a bright future ahead, right? The idea that the Star Trek Federation could be a thing, and we could all live a life of endless exploration and self-betterment and a brighter future for all mankind, right? That is a kind of denial of the horror, right?
Oh God, I have a reference I can dive into after you finish.
It's a denial of the horror of human nature, and it's a belief that we can overcome that nature, and it's a denial of the uncaring nature of the universe because, yes, the universe does not care, and that makes it wondrous, not scary.
I mean, you basically comes down to the point where do you want to believe that humanity... Do you want to dive into the humanity fuck yeah aspect of fucking Reddit and everything where human beings will go out and become, ooh. Brandon?
Yes.
Thought you disconnected. I made a point, but speaking of cosmic, where is your stance on? And I know this might be a bit polarizing for some of our video game fans out here. What is your stance on the premise behind the original Mass Effect trilogy when it comes to the Reapers and that aspect?
So, Reapers.
Ah, yes, Reapers.
I don't know if you heard the quotation fingers, but they're there. Reapers were a really interesting thing in the first two games because, well, okay, they're not cosmic horror, okay? They're not. You can understand them. They make sense. They are a thing that does a thing every X time. Clockwork. Easy peasy.
I would argue up until you reach the fucking Crucible in the third game, everything is fantastic. It's when you reach that point that shit falls apart.
You keep saying that. You say that every time we talk about Mass Effect 3, and it's just not true.
So are you saying that if you remove the whole three choices from Mass Effect 3, Mass Effect 3 would not be a better game if Shepard just died at the end and the Reapers just won, and then you move on to a new fucking.
No, because Legion and Morden rather, and not Garrus. I guess Garrus' storyline is fine, but still, half the cast storylines are just awful in 3. Okay, Morden Solus is his. It's not horrible. He is the very
model of the scientist Solarian.
He is. He's not horrible in 3. Okay, the problem is that he's a foregone conclusion in 3. No decision you made matters in his storyline at all.
Yeah, he's always going to die.
He is always going to die, and he's always going to die trying to cure the genophage. Even though I spent an entire game going, no, I think the genophage was probably the right thing to do. Actually,
at the time, it ostensibly was, until you throw in the fact that you now have Rex and Eve controlling the Krogan, and they could probably manhandle him into being not fucking retarded.
Right, I know. And I know that, like, objectively speaking, the genophage is a monstrous thing to have done. I'm just saying that I spent the better part of an entire game, you know, trying to talk Morden through that, because it made sense. It was a good decision. But no matter what I do, he is always going to do the thing he does in 3. But mostly, my problem with the entirety of Mass Effect 3 was anthropomorphizing Legion. It was not okay.
Okay.
The whole point of Legion in Mass Effect 2, was
to provide a perspective on an AI and on the AI.
Right, you can't treat him like a human. He's not a human. He's not even one thing. He's lots of things. They are lots of things.
I mean, at which point? So yeah, I can.
Like,
I will still say I enjoy the Mass Effect trilogy. I enjoy the Mass Effect games. I just kind of dig that whole setting, and I love the setting.
Yeah, the setting's great. I'm just saying about Legion, okay? That the thing they did to him in 3, where I can call him now, and everyone, the whole cast treats that like it's a good thing, instead of like how horrific it actually is to change the internal working of a creature like that.
Can you even consider an AI network a creature?
It's intelligent, isn't it?
It is sentient, so true.
Right. What I'm saying is, like, in Mass Effect 3, Legion becomes a singular entity. All of those many Geth become one Geth, which humanizes him. And everyone acts like that's a good thing. But Legion himself was telling you in Mass Effect 2 that you should not humanize him. He is not human. He cannot think like you do, and that is fine. Why should everyone have to be human all of a sudden?
This is true, and you also God damn it, you're gonna make me hate Mass Effect 3 and I'm never gonna want to play it again, but god damn it, let's just go fucking balls deep.
No. We're here to talk about horror. And the only horror in Mass Effect 3 is the writing.
Fair enough. It's not, I don't know. Like I said, I had no problem with any of the Mass Effect games. I'm sad they're on hiatus. There are things that could have been done better, sure, but I still had fun playing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, for sure they were good games, and they had really good elements. Like the Reapers. The Reapers were good at first, because they were not exactly cosmic horror, but they were an unstoppable force that was coming, and it's coming right now, and it's going to kill us all. And there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. You know, and that created a good backdrop for the story to be told, where you chase those clues and try to accomplish something before they actually get here.
Did you ever play the DLC in 3 where the fucking Leviathan DLC?
I watched a Let's Play because I was never going to give that company money ever again after playing 3.
Fair enough. I think what BioWare was attempting to do with the Reapers, basing them, around the Leviathan.
I'm sorry, I think you mean Reapers.
Oh yes, Reapers. I think what they were trying to do there is they were trying to tap into an aspect of cosmic horror. They have this uncaring entity that is just going to go about. And granted, like you said, they were made and they served a purpose. But eventually, along the lines in the millennia that they have existed, they became less of a construct and more of just a truth of the universe. Until
Right,
you
they
get
became a
Cosmic
thing that we're
Reaper.
just gonna, yeah.
So, in that matter, can you not say that Reapers are an aspect of cosmic horror because they eventually just became part of the universe?
Okay, yes, while that is true, okay, the difference is very subtle, okay? The difference between the Reapers and a cosmic horror and an eldritch abomination is that the Reapers care. They are specifically coming to destroy us. For what reason, we can't know. I mean, we can. They tell us later. But for what reason, doesn't matter. They are specifically out to kill us. In particular. For a reason.
Yes. They're out to kill humanity because of Shepard.
Right. Point is, they're out to kill us, okay? It's not like cosmic horror, because, again, in cosmic horror, everyone you love dying and going mad is just a side effect.
This is true.
At least that's how I think of it.
Reapers care enough to have conversations with us per Super Seeky Shark. Thank you, Pat, for joining us.
Yep, that is exactly true. If you can have a conversation with it, it is not an eldritch abomination.
Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. So, fair enough. That makes sense. So, would that imply that at any point an eldritch abomination attempts to have a conversation with the protagonist and ceases to be an eldritch abomination?
No. It does not necessarily mean that. Example. Evangelion.
Oh, God, yes. Let's go.
In that scene, okay, the angels in Neon Genesis Evangelion are cosmic horrors. That is what, or not, I'm sorry, they are eldritch abominations. That is what they are. They are not understandable. They are beyond our comprehension. And their goal does not involve us.
Absolutely. Agree 100%.
Right. And that includes, right, one time, okay, and this may be a bad dub, or it may be what actually happened, okay? But in that scene where that angel does that thing to Asuka, the implication is that it was actually just trying to talk to her. But it is so big and so incomprehensible that the act of trying to communicate nearly destroyed her.
Yeah, that makes a lot of fucking sense.
Right. So that is why I say, no, trying to communicate does not make you not a cosmic, or not an eldritch abomination. Succeeding does.
Succeeding in communicating with a lesser... Oh, yeah, that makes absolute sense.
Because in order to be a proper eldritch abomination, you have to be so far beyond us that if you succeeded in communicating, it would just break our brain.
Right. So, basically going that any eldritch abomination worth their salt has to be incomprehensible to the human.
Yeah, in order to be an eldritch abomination, it has to be incomprehensible.
So, all right. So, alternative query. At which point, if you come across, not saying the entirety of humanity, but if you have one individual lesser being that is capable of understanding an eldritch abomination, does that being then become an eldritch abomination? But
kind of by proxy. Okay, so here's the... Okay. There is an answer to that question, and the answer to that question may surprise you. Because it is also a question.
All right, BuzzFeed, let's go.
Is the Doctor an eldritch abomination?
Abso-fucking-lutely.
In that case, yes. A lesser being able to understand an eldritch abomination is itself an eldritch abomination.
But then he falls apart and doesn't become an eldritch abomination because he's capable of communicating with normal humans.
Is he, though?
You raise a good point. I mean, let's just think. Not even throughout the entire aspect. Let's just point out to one in the Rings of Aquitaine.
Yeah, that's true. So, what I'm kind of getting at. Okay, no, I don't think that the Doctor is literally an Eldritch Abomination. He is a lot of things, but he is not an Eldritch Abomination. He's also
a good
not.
Man. Do not ask why he needs so many rules.
He's also not, mortal. So, I would say that what he is actually closest to is something like Cthulhu, actually. Not an elder god, but also kind of above a person, too. Because remember, the original Cthulhu is not an eldritch abomination. The original Cthulhu is nothing but a monstrous prophet of an ancient race.
Ooh. I love diving into mythos with you, Brandon. It's so much fun.
Yeah, this is really good. This is a good thing we're doing. I'm enjoying it.
Oh, it's so much fun. I wish, and if anybody wishes to contribute, please join us in the chat, or if you know us personally, ask to join in the conversation. If you have a point to make, we will discuss it.
If anyone is personally offended by me just now calling the Doctor Cthulhu, go ahead and note that as well.
Send all your hate mail to Padre Illuminadre at twitchtv.com. Hashtag.
I mean, you could just spam my Twitter.
Spam is Twitter.
At Padre Illuminadre. Hashtag the Doctor's not Cthulhu, you asshole.
Spam it with, unless you agree with him, in which case spam it with pictures of the Doctor as Cthulhu.
A betentacled Doctor. By the way, tentacles. Are they scary?
If you've seen enough hentai, yes.
Good answer.
By and large, though, going back to Fear, there's at one point in the Fear games, there is a creature that is essentially that. They're a puddle of shadow that exists on the floor that your light does not displace, and if you step in them, tentacles drag you down into...
What?
Well, I'm pretty sure it's in Fear 2 where it occurs, so they drag you down into Alma's unprofessional fixation.
Oh. Super Sticky Shark says, where does Tommy Wiseau fall into the Eldritch Abomination business? Has he ever succeeded in communicating with mortals? The answer is no. He has never successfully communicated with a mortal. He also clearly is not human because he has never seen nor knows how to throw a football. And also, he does not speak English like an English speaker. In fact, he doesn't speak English like a person who has ever spoken before.
This is true.
My suspicion is that his tongue does not naturally make the shape that is required to speak English, and in fact, he has to tie the halves of his tongue together to speak.
God damn it, are you telling me that Wicker was essentially Tommy fucking Wiseau?
Yes.
God damn it. So, since this entire podcast is about the subject of feet, can we break away from cosmic horror for a little bit?
I hope we can.
So, let's dive into something else, because I just recently finished a playthrough of Deus Ex Mankind. And that got me thinking again, once more, on the topic of, and everything else we've talked about is, you're very welcome, Super Sticky Shark. Got me thinking about the aspect of, well, okay, so let me go deep into where this is. I was playing through Deus Ex Mankind Divided and watching Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex all the way through again. Diving into the aspect of at what point do you measure someone human, and diving when you reach a full aspect of cyberization where you can be hacked at any time, where does that fall in the fear standard?
That's a good point, actually.
Because if you think about it, Deus Ex, I really think that Deus Ex could just, they could almost just immediately link up with the fucking Ghost in the Shell franchise. Like, everything else is going on in Deus Ex, and then in Japan, everything is, Ghost in the Shell.
Do you know that that's not the case?
I know it's not the case, but it could be so interesting, and I'm sure there's fanfics out.
So, what's interesting about... Okay, so Deus Ex is basically, to me, just cyberpunk. That is just what it is. That is cyberpunk. Period.
That's all it is. Deus Ex is cyberpunk.
And
it fits in there with Shadowrun and everything.
Right, and what's interesting about cyberpunk, okay, is that the horror in cyberpunk comes from the nature of an uncaring force.
Are you gonna link cyberpunk to fucking cosmic horror?
Kind of, but not really.
All right.
Because the uncaring force in question that creates all of the horror in cyberpunk is capitalism.
This is a true statement.
In cyberpunk, all of the horrors that happen on a daily basis happen because we have been given the ability to buy ourselves better. We have been given the ability to buy ourselves whatever we want. We can buy new eyes. We can buy new arms. We can buy, I don't know, a chip that increases our social skills. We can buy anything. And because of that, the rich and the poor stop even really being the same species.
Particularly, looking at it in Mankind Divided. Well, you played Mankind Divided.
I sure did.
So going from that, God damn it, I can't remember the previous game.
Human Revolution.
Going from the events of Human Revolution into Mankind Divided, and anybody who's augmented is essentially fucked.
Right, true.
And then you just dive into the fact that the original Deus Ex games take place after this, and you just know that augmented people are absolutely fucked.
Right. But why did that happen? Again, the reason that happened was because
corporations decided that there was more money in other.
Exactly, basically.
Which dives into, going back into Ghost in the... going into that, if the corporations can determine what does not constitute a human in that world, they have the most money, they can essentially just dictate fucking terms.
Exactly. Like, that's what makes cyberpunk scary. Like,
and it's utterly terrifying, because then you have to dive into the fact that, like, not everybody in a cyberpunk setting, or a particular Deus Ex setting, has voluntarily gone through with getting their AUGs. I mean, the fucking main character in those two games.
I never asked for this.
I never asked for this. Sorry, hold on. I never asked for this.
Metal Gear. But yeah, exactly. But the reason that the horror comes in, right, is that in Deus Ex, just like in all cyberpunk, your life, a human life, is literally nothing but a number on a ledger in some mega corporation's books.
And that number can either increase in value or decrease in value based upon what you have.
Yeah, true. I'm just saying that the horror aspect comes from the dehumanization. It's exactly like what is terrifying about 1984. Or the Nazis, actually. The terrifying thing is that you can be dehumanized in an instant. And in cyberpunk, it is capitalism doing the dehumanizing, generally.
I just want to point out, Godwin's Law has come into effect at 1 hour and 49 minutes.
Look, we were eventually going to talk about the horrible things that have happened in real life. It was going to happen.
Absolutely. But going back to my previous subject, so we have the hard-boiled cyberpunk, the dark cyberpunk. Then you look at things like the Ghost in the Shell franchise, where it's a little bit more noble bright than grim dark that you have in like Deus Ex and Shadowrun that you have in Cyberpunk. Where I mean, full body cyborgs and people with prostheses, they're not discriminated against as much. But then you have the whole subject that you have hackers out there who can essentially take over your fucking body and cause you to do horrific things. And then going even further, back to the live action Ghost in the Shell movie from what was it last?
And also, do not forget, Steve. Okay, do not forget. Who is the Laughing Man?
The Laughing Man is all of us.
There is no Laughing Man.
But all of us are the Laughing Man.
Right. That's what. There is no. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But anyway, to touch on that movie that kind of got absolutely flamed.
Okay, I saw that movie, and yes, I snuck a pint into the movie theater, and yes, I was a little shitty by the end. But what I saw was a movie where the visual director, the visual art director, knew the source material and really wanted to make something amazing. And nobody else on the cast understood anything.
It was so goddamn beautiful.
And so bad.
Right, but just the whole premise behind that movie. You have these people who are taken in and converted into these full-body cyborgs and have their memories replaced. And I think the horror from that particular franchise comes to the fact that, are you who you believe you?
Well, yeah, although, like, philosophically speaking, I generally just cut to the, I am exactly who I think I am. Who the fuck else would I be? And it doesn't matter if I think that. It doesn't matter why I think I am who I am. I just am. I am what I am, and that's all that I am.
Are you Popeye the Sailor Man?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go open up some spinach vodka. Be right back.
I will vamp. So it's come time for the Steven Talk to Everyone phase of the show where Brandon has to go fetch a drink. How are you all doing? It's a pleasure to be here with you on the day of January the 7th, 2019. And this has been a lovely conversation thus far. Please reach out to us on the various social medias and everything. Join the conversation. We're always looking for more people to join into the madness. Oh, yes, the madness. It's so very delicious. But just kind of diving into it from my perspective of things, I think it's absolutely terrifying to exist in such a world. Granted, I'm one of the first people. Hello, Super Sticky Shark. I think by and large, I'm the very first opportunity I have to upload my brain into a robot body. I'm taking it because my body hates me for various reasons I won't dive into. But I mean, I'm all for it. And because I'm all for it, looking at these various settings where if you're augmented a la Deus Ex and other source material, or cyberized as in Ghost in the Shell, there's always that possibility that someone out there can just make your life a living hell based upon a few clicks of a keyboard. And that for me is where the terror of these settings sets in. Because who wouldn't want to make themselves better, by cyberization or augmentation? I mean, it's glorious.
Harder, better, faster, stronger, I think you'll find.
Absolutely. I was just regaling everyone who is still listening with the fact that, like, I would absolutely put my brain in a robot body at the first chance
I mean, I'm already a cyborg, technically.
I'm less of a person. I'm missing bits and pieces here and there.
Oh, none of those pieces were important.
They really weren't. I'm still living the life, as it were. Drinking some dangerously proofed bourbon.
Yeah, I'm a good 4-ish straight ounces of rum down?
I probably drank a quarter of this 111 proof.
Whoo!
And I still got half a fucking cup to go, and I'm probably gonna make more. Let's go.
Go hard.
Indeed. We're gonna make a subject. Where were we? Oh, I had an idea. So, from the whole aspect of cyberized and cyber horror, we kind of touched briefly on AIs in the aspect of Mass Effect and other things. So, the premise of the terror that is great.
So, the premise of what, sorry?
So, self-replicating nanomachines.
Oh. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I never found that scary.
Really?
Yeah, like, okay, you're talking about a Grey Goose scenario, right? Where nanomachines outcompete all life on Earth and we all die. The thing is, like... a random alien fungus could do that right now.
A mutated fungus that exists on this planet could do something similar.
Right, exactly.
All Last of Us.
I just am not capable of finding... Well, at the end of the day, okay, all a Grey Goose scenario is biological life on Earth getting outcompeted. You know what biological life on Earth is really good at?
Adapting and overcoming?
Not getting outcompeted.
Correct.
You know, actually, so one way that that could happen, and that it's not scary still, but have you ever, did you play Horizon Zero Dawn?
I have not yet played Horizon Zero Dawn. However, I've seen Let's Plays and I'm familiar with the game, and it looks amazing, and the premise behind it is, so glorious.
It's pretty excellent. But in the backstory of that game, there's a robot apocalypse, and the robots are able to use biological matter to make biofuel, basically, and they end up, fueling themselves with most of the life on the planet. So it goes.
As the legends have foretold.
Right. And they do it very quickly, so that makes sense. It makes more sense than the Grey Goose scenario.
Yeah, it really does, where essentially just... Which then you come... Alright, so linking back to that, it comes to the flip side of the situation you have in most cyberpunk settings, where as opposed to non-augmented humanity just fucking kicking everything else in the ground, you have technology just kicking humans to the fucking curb.
Yeah. I mean, Terminator has that same premise, really.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
Matrix has that same premise.
Don't get me started on the Matrix. The only scary thing about the Matrix is all of the opportunities they missed.
Well, I didn't say the Matrix was an exploration of terror. I'm just saying that, like, technology has taken over.
Like, did you know that in the original script of the Matrix, the purpose of the Matrix, you know how the purpose of the Matrix is to extract energy from our bodies because that would work?
Yeah, sure. That makes perfect sense.
There's 5 problems with it. I'm going to name... I think I'll name them all, actually. 1.
Go ahead.
1. It takes more energy to keep us alive than we produce.
True.
2. There is no reason to have that simulation. You could have just lobotomized us.
Correct.
3. There's no reason to use humans. You could have just used cows.
Or potatoes.
Actually, potatoes would work way better. 4. You can't just feed humans other humans. There aren't enough humans. And, of course, 5. The entirety of the Matrix Revolutions. However, all of those problems were solved by the original script of the first movie.
I'm unfamiliar with the original script. Please enlighten me.
In the original script of The Matrix Part 1, because at that time, there was only one part of The Matrix, okay? The reason that we were all linked together in a matrix, and the reason that agents could take over us in the Matrix, is that the Matrix existed to network every human brain together into a giant supercomputer.
The human brain would... Oh, God, that would be an astronomical amount of fucking processing.
Exactly. But the thing was, when the Wachowskis took that to the studio execs were like, our dumbass movie-going audience is not going to understand that, just make them batteries. So that's what they did. And sure, the studio execs are probably right that a 2000s audience would not have understood that. But...
it would have been a much better franchise.
Yeah, it would have. Like, it explains literally everything. If the Matrix exists as a to make human brains into a supercomputer, it explains every single problem with the franchise. Except how Neo can do stuff outside the Matrix, but that's not...
That's neither here nor there. That's just Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, true.
Speaking of Keanu Reeves, just slightly diving away from the...
Is it time to talk about Constantine? Can we talk about Constantine?
We can talk about Constantine, but I just wanted to hit on the whole premise behind John Wick and everything.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, actually. Not that that's a horror movie, but...
I mean, it's not a horror movie. It's a fantastic fucking franchise, and I cannot wait for Chapter 3. Anyway, but the whole premise behind the fact that there is... Just going back to the whole capitalist corporate entity ruling everything, the fact that there are just such a massive fucking assemblance of just the underworld that is capable of operating across the entire planet, and just the whole everything about the fucking Continental.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The premise behind that is, while glorious, is terrifying to the normal person.
Right, yeah. You don't want to think about there being a criminal enterprise all the way across the world that no one has any control over.
Right, but then you have the fact, like, you don't have to worry about John Wick. He's not going to kill anybody who's a fucking innocent, but as we know, Brandon, there are less scrupulous fucking people existing on this.
Yeah, that's true, but it's not like, okay... Nobody's
what I'm saying, collateral damage is a thing.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that when you think about horror, okay? They don't make horror movies about thugs. They don't make horror movies about gangsters. They don't make horror movies about, they don't make horror movies about criminals. They don't make
horror movies about...
What?
They need to make horror movies about criminals. I'd watch that shit.
Potentially, sure. But they don't make those, like... The normal kind of criminal, like the guy who breaks in your house to steal your shit and maybe shoots you by accident while he's in there, that's not the kind of thing that our movie-going audiences find scary.
They find things like complicated death traps scary.
Right. What we find scary are psycho murderers. Who, because they are psycho murderers, aren't really, social.
Yeah.
Like, we are not afraid of the type of criminal that works with other criminals.
We're afraid of the type of criminal who was the quiet kid sitting in the corner.
Exactly. That's why the scariest like mafioso in movies is Anton from No Country for Old Men.
Oh God, yes.
Anton is fucking frightening.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even call him psychopathic. I just call him fucking... He's just a goddamn sociopath.
He's not just a sociopath. There is something wrong in his head that, like, you can tell he does not think he has any choice, ever.
Speaking of the works of Cormac McCarthy...
Actually, wait, hang on. Super Sticky Shark says, Superhuman Brain is so much better. Damn. Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of the works of Cormac McCarthy, did you ever read Blood Meridian?
I did not.
I'm gonna have to let you either borrow my copy, or I'm gonna have to get you a fucking copy. It's a Cormac McCarthy novel, so the same as No Country for Old Men and oh god, what was the Viggo Mortensen movie? The Road.
Sure.
So Cormac McCarthy is a fantastic author when it comes to just creepy, deep down Southern Gothic writing. And the album Blood Meridian, which I picked up specifically, not so much on the recommendation, because it is based, an album from one of my favorite singer-songwriters is based around the entire book. Essentially is a Western novel following the adventures of this, the protagonist called the Kid, as he travels through the Old West and into Mexico and all those fucking cliches. But there's a character in those books called the Judge Holden. And you're not quite inherently sure whether or not he is just a fucking sociopathic judge preacher, sociopathic atheist judge, or whether or not he is the actual fucking devil.
Oh, that's something else that I've never found scary. The actual fucking devil.
I mean, pretty much by and large, and you know my religious fucking perspective on things, but I just have to say, "Be gone, devil," and go. By and large, I think pretty much everybody just has to, if you're of a strong enough will, you don't have to worry about anything from the quote-unquote.
I'm gonna go older school than that and state that the devil, as you think of it, is actually from the fan fiction, and he never really did anything bad in the Bible. Just saying.
Oh, so you're saying that the devil everybody's familiar with is just from the works of Dante Alighieri?
That is exactly correct, yes. And Milton.
And fucking Faust.
It's literally all fanfic. And no, it was Mephistopheles in Faust, who is not the devil.
You are correct, sir. I apologize. I'm very drunk.
You've nothing more to say to me? You've come but to complain unendingly? Is ever aught right to your mind? No, Lord, all is still quite bad, I find.
Oh, I love that how we constantly dive into the deep cuts. It's so...
The what?
The deep cuts.
I don't know what that means.
The deep cuts is potentially a phrase among music fans who refer to the lesser known.
Oh, the deep cuts. Got you. Like the middle of the 25-minute track that included the song.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying now.
By and large, I think anybody who's still following, for one, watching us on Twitch, for two, anybody who's on Twitch is familiar with the works of Dante Alighieri in the form of the Inferno and Purgatorio.
Okay,
and
I wouldn't assume that. I would not assume that, but that is what we're referring to.
I would assume that most people who have a Twitch now and are following us right now are familiar with the game Dante's Inferno.
I also wouldn't assume that, because I don't think anyone in the world played that game.
I played that game, motherfucker!
Yeah, are you in the world?
I don't know, am I?
How much have you had?
Well, I started the night at the neck of this fucking bottle of cast strength, and it's about halfway at the fucking bowl.
So you may not be in this world any longer.
Snatch no one, everyone. Let's go. Let's keep going. I love this.
Never stop.
Never stop. I mean, this is the first episode of 2019. You might as well just fucking go all out.
Has there ever been a good horror anime?
I would argue that Ghost Hunt is a good horror anime.
Is that the one with the amazing dub? That's absolute garbage.
No. That's Ghost Stories. Ghost Hunt is something completely different. Ghost Hunt is one that starts out, it's just kind of this starts out like, oh yeah, these schoolgirls are telling horror stories in this classroom, and then all of a sudden this tall, dark stranger shows up in their classroom as they're telling these stories, and then it just kind of dives into this exploration of like actual paranormal investigation.
So ghost stories.
No, not ghost stories, because
No?
instead of no, because he's going about it from the perspective of the scientist. He is out to prove that ghosts exists.
Oh, so it's
He
the
has
X-Files.
He's Mulder, yeah. But he has, of course, other people. He has the shrine maiden who's not a maiden, has the Buddhist priest who's not a Buddhist priest and who's grown his hair out and plays in a and then has a 19-year-old Australian Catholic priest.
So, everyone who's watching this channel should definitely go read or go watch Ghost Stories, but you specifically have to watch the English dub of Ghost Stories. Do not try to find the Japanese anywhere.
I'm going to sit you down and make you watch 3 episodes of Ghost Hunt.
That's fine. Super Sticky Shark suggests Madoka Magica and Paranoia Agent.
Kill it with fire!
Good answer, actually. Good answer. So Madoka Magica is definitely kind of on the cosmic horror scale of things because, yes, Cube can talk to you and you can understand what it is saying, but you cannot understand what it is.
Oh, I've got an idea. Continue.
And Paranoia Agent is just delightful.
Mm-hmm. So, Brandon.
Yes?
I'm thinking of a franchise now, or not franchise, a series now, that the art style reminds me of, or Madoka Magica, and the art style ending on that reminds the fact that there is a series out there that takes these people from the point in which they die and plants them into a fantasy world, in which case they have to fight. Jesus Christ, is that fucking Jesus Christ?
Oh yeah, Drifters. That's not a horror show though.
No. But it just, so hear me out. By
I like
and large,
anything that starts with a hear me out.
and of course, by and large, the majority of the population, I would say that there are more religious people in the world than there are atheists or agnostics.
Sure.
And everybody in those religious circles wants to believe that when they die, they go off to live with their preferred deity. So,
Oh shit! I didn't even think about this angle. Continue.
so then you have it where these fucking glorious warriors, and this would be this would be fucking fantastic for any Viking that died ever.
Well,
just go off to
yeah,
Orlando.
it would just literally be Valhalla.
Correct. But then you have these fucking entities that when they die, they're just transplanted into this world where they have to continue fighting. And granted, some of them don't fucking make it. You end up having Joan of Arc become fucking batshit insane.
Okay, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I think Joan of Arc might have been batshit insane in real life too.
More so. I don't think she went about just killing as many civilians as she could.
No, she did not. However, she never learned that the frontal charge is not always the correct choice.
This is true. So just the premise that at any point in time, if you prove yourself enough to these, from Bob from accounting and Jane from that you will be transplanted into this fantastical world where you do not get to rest, you have to continue your fucking fight.
Okay, you say that, okay? But look at the perspectives of the characters in question. They seem pretty okay with it.
Yeah, the characters in question seem pretty okay with it, but what if you have we haven't seen this character. What if you have a fucking just soldiers from the First World War where their only goal is to get home and then they die?
Like, specifically, you don't.
In the series you don't, but the premise behind the series, if they prove themselves, they end up in this world. So instead of getting to go home or rest in peace, they have to continue to fight a fucking...
Well, you say that, right? But Bob from accounting is clearly a nice guy, okay?
Well, yeah, he's clearly going to take the most bloodthirsty...
Bob from accounting is on the up and up in the show Drifters, okay? We're talking about Drifters right now. Everyone should go watch Drifters. It is amazing. But Bob from accounting's on the up and up. He's not taking anybody who doesn't want to be there.
Well, but Jane from HR.
But, okay, Jane from HR, you know what, actually? No, she specifically takes people who were betrayed and lets them exact their vengeance.
Indeed, but we're still seeing in this franchise where we have Bob from accounting and Jane from HR. What about the other departments from this fucking existential...
Unknown. I'm waiting for the next season of Drifters to come out because I'd like that question to be answered. Are there other departments? Are we ever going to see shipping and receiving?
Shipping and receiving, but at which point... We still need to finish that last episode. We have one episode left we have not fucking watched.
Oh my god, you're right. We'll finish it.
But just think of it like this. You have this fucking cosmic company that pulls glorious warriors from their death to fight in this world. Who's to say there's not somebody who just gets off on saying like, oh yeah, this guy has fought his fucking war and he just wants to go home. Fuck it, let's put him in this goddamn free-for-
Super Sticky Shark says it seemed like what makes a drifter is enjoying the crazy shit they do. Yes, that is exactly correct, and that's kind of what I was getting at. But he makes an interesting point, right? That there is this like this thing that happens in all isekai, right? Where your normal afterlife gets usurped, and you end up doing somewhere else, doing something else, and you didn't get to make any decision there.
I didn't ask for this.
Exactly. Like, Zombieland Saga. Zombieland Saga. All she wants is to be a pop idol, and she just goes out in the street, and Truck-kun slams right into her and she dies. Only to become a zombie.
Who became an idol.
Right. Also, Truck-kun is the savior of anime. Just saying. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Like, there's something kind of horrifying about the concept of isekai.
You get no arguments from me.
Well, no, of course not. That was your point, right?
I think so.
Okay, great.
Oh, there's some other really good horror anime.
I'm thinking about it, but...
I mean, we only briefly touched on Madoka.
Yeah, it's just I don't want to touch on Madoka because I feel like anyone in this chat who hasn't seen it needs to just go watch it instead of me talking about it.
Fair enough.
Like right this second, go now. Why are you watching me for?
Because we're glorious, that's why.
I mean, we are pretty awesome, but we're definitely no Madoka, alright? That show's great.
What are some other decent fucking...
Again, I just don't think horror works very well in anime, just because, you know, it's animated.
Fair enough.
You know, it's like asking about a horror cartoon. What do we have besides Treehouse of Horror?
I don't know. There's this one really creepy series I have not watched yet that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head, but it's essentially just a storyteller who goes around telling horror stories to children. And
yes. Oh! Quick note on sci-fi. Sci-fi anime, okay?
Yeah.
There is an anime that I watched about, I think it came out about a year and a half ago. It was called Kato, The Right Answer, okay?
I'm not familiar with this. Please enlighten.
Okay, the premise of the show, right, is that a godlike alien entity comes to Earth bearing gifts.
I don't see anything wrong with this.
Well, it's really interesting, right? Because one of the gifts that this entity brings is a configuration that can produce infinite energy. Well, what the shit do humans do with that? The first thing that's going to happen, obviously, is someone's going to try to take it for themselves and keep it.
Because of course.
But it turns out to be, not an easy thing to do, but it's something anyone can do. So they have to, there's this battle over the knowledge. Because, this random alien is just here to give us presents. Or so it seems at first, anyway. This alien is here to give us presents. That's what he wants to do. He wants to talk to us, study us, give us gifts. But the gifts that he's trying to give us are so beyond our state as a society that the results are really interesting. Although, forewarning, if you actually do go and watch it, bad CGI abounds.
Ugh.
But the plot is really, really good.
Ooh.
And it actually touches on cosmic horror again. Because a sufficiently advanced entity can be trying to help us and do terrible things to us.
There's my second. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Berserk, yeah. Berserk is absolutely fucking horrifying.
Oh, yes. So, and if you take yourself away from the fucking abridged series, so is Hellsing to an extent.
It was. It's just really strange because, yes, Hellsing is horror. But the most horrifying entity in Hellsing is the protagonist?
And he's fucking hilarious.
Right. So it's just not, it is horror. It is actually classical gothic horror. But it's not scary because, again, the protagonist is the scariest thing in that series.
That's fair. Another thought occurred. Pacific Rim.
In a Godzilla kind of way? Is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, it's kind of breaking away from the cosmic horror aspect and everything. You have the whole Godzilla aspect and Godzilla threshold.
Yeah, it's just... Pacific Rim is more of an action movie, though, is the thing. No one is afraid of a giant monster if the Power Rangers are around.
This is true, but as with the Power Rangers, you have to look at it from the concept of it. What are the normal fucking humans experiencing with that? If you're just some random...
That's true, but if you
live in Angel Grove, you're fine.
If you're going to go with that, though, you just have to go back to Godzilla.
Right. Which is just, a fucking touching on the fear of the atomic bomb.
Well, yeah. Because the atomic bomb does not care about you.
It does not.
To the atomic bomb and to the people wielding the atomic bomb, people are just ants. Like the ant people in Godzilla.
Just like the ant people who do not have a Jaeger to defend them in Pacific.
Yes, that's true. I'm just saying that the difference between these two things is that in Godzilla there is no Jaeger to protect you.
Just guys with big guns.
Which, it turns out, aren't super useful against Godzilla.
Correct. An anime comes to mind, which I'm not sure if many people have actually watched, but it kind of goes from a similar premise of invaders. Gun Parade March, which is also based on a fucking PS2 game.
Did you say Gungrave?
I said Gun Parade March.
Gungrave March.
Gun Parade.
Oh,
like
Gun
floating.
Parade. I thought you were saying Gungrave, and I was like, Gungrave wasn't scary. It was kind of good, but it wasn't scary.
Gun Parade March, and there's various games in the there's a couple of games in the franchise, and an anime that I may own the box set for. The series itself, it's a fucking high schoolers piloting giant mecha romance, and yeah, it's more of a
Yeah.
But the premise behind it is that the world has been taken over except for Japan reasons
Because of course.
by these giant insect-like creatures, kind of like Blue Gender.
Actually, Blue Gender was properly terrifying.
It was, but we can touch on that here in a second. But Gun Parade March, you have these high schoolers piloting these giant fucking insect-like creatures who, like a lot of things, are kind of drawn to the misery that they exhibit in humanity.
So it's just Eva again, actually.
A bit, yeah. But as you mentioned, Blue Gender was terrifying.
Oh my god, Blue Gender was fucking frightening. Why? Okay, I don't know why, right? But it turns out that to make something really fucking unsettling, all you have to do is make its mouth a vagina. No, seriously, I'll find a fucking screenshot.
I don't know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, Blue Gender got action towards him, but I mean, it kind of leads into the whole. Oh yeah, I'm waking up in this world and I don't know what the fuck is going.
Here. I'm gonna show my desktop for just a second. I want everyone to look at this fucking thing. Don't ban me, Twitch. This is a mouth. This is this thing's mouth. I promise. Also, NSFW warning.
It is terrifying.
Look at this fucking thing.
I'm actually waiting for it to transition into the fucking Twitch.
It'll get there. It's a little bit behind. But seriously, look at it. Oh my god. It's a mouth. I promise it's a mouth.
Oh, it's gonna be great.
Did it go yet? Can I take this fucking thing off my screen?
There it is. Yep, that's
the one, all right.
That's
My PC might be infected, boys.
Oh god, take it away, take it away.
I'm working on it. How the hell do I do this? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Oh lordy, going from that.
Yeah, my apologies to everyone who was forced to watch that just now. Buh.
Buh, Norton Security.
Buh, Norton Security. I don't even have that installed, so I have no idea where that came from.
Oh, fun times had by all.
But seriously, though, Blue Gender was actually kind of scary.
It was. You know what? A thought occurs looking across at my DVD collection. You know what else is fucking terrifying?
What's that?
A large purple man with a golden gun.
Do you think that Thanos is scary?
I think the fact that, well, not for me, because I went to one of those websites that calculated whether or not you'd survive the fucking sap, and it said,
Oh my god, everyone fucking did that except me.
you should do it. Let's find out if you survive.
No. Their wills are mocked. I will myself to survive. We're good.
Fair enough. But anyway, I mean, again, we're going back to not whether or not it actually terrified us, but the concept behind it.
Right. The concept that they're... Well, here's the thing. It's just cosmic horror again.
Again,
50-50, fair, doesn't care about you. Done.
Right, but you were saying that like there's not very many movies that dive into cosmic horror, and that's
true, and that is like existentially terrifying. Like the concept that could happen. It couldn't, of course, but the idea that it could.
At any moment, some alien creature in the far-flung reaches of the galaxy could enact a plan that just wipes out half of everyone.
Yeah, that's true. It's good. I mean, it's not, obviously it's not good. It's just it is kind of scary.
I'm gonna stand up. I'm okay.
Are you drunk?
Maybe a little.
Excellent.
I just kind of got up and wandered over to my DVD shelf, and I'm just kind of looking through this selection to see if there's anything else that stands out as cosmic or horror in general.
A few years ago, it was just another snake cult. I don't know. I do know that we've been talking about horror for 2.5 hours.
And my God, look at that! We're drawing in people.
Do we have people?
They're people.
Are you sure? Hello, people.
Hi, folks. How are y'all?
So to recap, we've talked about horror games, we've talked about horror movies, we've talked about how you leverage horror as a dungeon master or storyteller into your game. What else can we talk about?
We could talk about various concepts involved around that. I mean, we kind of hit on it, but one of the biggest sci-fi tropes that you can think of is a colony.
A colony what?
A colony drop.
Oh, I see. See,
the plot
again,
of every Gundam series ever.
That's just mass destruction, though. That's just like we talked about Armageddon. That's all that is.
It is just mass destruction, but you have to think about it again. Like you're just some poor schmuck going about his business on a colony or on a planet, and then you just kind of look up and oh wait, that moon is getting awful close.
Right, but that's kind of more just the... You know what it actually is? It's just a scaled-up nuke. Like, that's something that we're reasonably afraid of now. It's not...
Yeah, I get it. Planet cracking.
Again, it's just a nuke.
Zombie apocalypse.
Again, it's just an... Wait, no. However, I think that like as a culture, we have now come to the conclusion that zombies aren't scary and never were.
I mean, they're really not.
Like the only thing, like being afraid of zombies is no different from being afraid of Ebola. It's just a fear of disease. That's all it is.
I'd argue that being afraid of zombies is no different than being afraid of a rabid dog.
Again, it's exactly the same, actually. Because turns out rabies kills people.
Correct. Oh, we've had fun.
Yeah, this has been a good episode. We talked about SCPs. We talked about stuff. I flashed a terrifying looking mouth on Twitch. Conveniently, my stream is marked mature audiences only. Just saying.
I mean, you have me and you in a fucking podcast.
He said, saying the word fucking in the middle of the sentence. This is why it's mature audiences, okay?
Yeah, I swear a lot when I get drunk.
Oh, yeah, and we're also actively drinking through the whole podcast. Yeah, there's a lot of good reasons this should be a mature audiences thing. We should do a kids show. It'll be cosmic horror for kids. Wait, actually, they made such a thing. Howard Lovecraft. Has anyone seen that?
What? That's a thing?
Yes. It is like they're like straight to DVD kids movies about a child H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh God, Google, don't fail me.
Howard Lovecraft and the Frozen Kingdom.
Oh God, I think I learned about this through TV tropes, and you just reminded me of it.
Yeah, buddy.
Can we talk about how TV tropes will ruin your life?
TV tropes is its own special kind of horror. It's the kind of horror where you go to read one thing because you were watching a show and you wanted to know, and then you have 50 tabs open, and then your computer explodes.
Oh my God, this is an actual thing. Oh wait, no, I remember what it was. I was out Christmas shopping and I saw this fucking video. Howard Lovecraft. I was like, what the fuck is it?
Not gonna lie, when I saw this on the shelf at the Walmart, it made me happy. I was like, aw, cosmic horror for kiddies. If I ever accidentally have a kid, that kid is gonna be metal as fuck.
Same here.
Okay, all right. We're talking about kids' cartoons now. Maybe we drunk.
Maybe we should call it a night.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with too. I'd like to thank everybody for watching the podcast today. Especially everybody who stayed for the whole 2 hours and 40 minutes of it. If you have any questions, comments, if you want to talk to either of us about scary stuff, you can hit me on Twitter at Padre Luminadre.
Same here. You can hit me up on Twitter at DDK Madcap.
Yep. And I think that that's going to do it for this episode. Normally, we would decide what we're going to do next episode based on what happened in this episode. But I've been drinking, so we're going to not do that. And I'm going to just play us out. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. And I hope to see you all in 2 weeks' time.
We love you all and pleasant dreams.
That was horrible.
I know.